Welcome to another garden vlog. Fingers crossed. Yesterday we started to do a garden vlog and we got rained out. And we just did sort of like a state of the union for our gardening. How are the mosquitoes doing?
Bad.
Bad mosquitoes. Well, let's just see how this goes because we were just interrupted by 2 kids and a dog and loads of mosquitoes out here. The rain sure has perked up these Gerber daisies and impatiens and made the dianthus kind of happy, a little bit happy. You know, some of the marigolds are about half gone. You know, some of the petunias here. Look at there's one, still a couple flowers on it. Then we got a lot that probably are on their way out or did. But then again, we got some more Gerber daisies here. I think this was a white one here, not sure. As long as we get this rain during the hot period, these Gerber daisies will be fine. And once they start drooping too much and getting too much drought, we'll probably just have to put them in the shade. When you're in Florida, there is a lot of pests, I should say. A lot of rain, a little bit of drought, hot weather, fungal issues, ants, termites, squirrels, all kinds of stuff that can, you know, impede your gardening practices, I guess. If you have mulberry trees, birds are a pest. Some people have major issues with rabbits and deer as well. Then we have boring insects, which can wipe out your whole tree. You know, like they did with my Baldwin pear, like they tried to do with that jujube that luckily came back from its root suckers. Then you have other caterpillars or worms that are known to eat your melons and your leaves. And you have some other, I think, boring insects that get your melons, squash, and such. So on and so forth. Bacterial root rot from the ground being so wet. Weeds and grass invading your garden, as well as invasive plants that come and they seed everywhere or spread through root suckers. It was either last year or the year before. I was at a major plant nursery and they told us that their supplier for persimmons told them that all or most of their root stock and stuff for persimmons was eaten by deer, so they did not offer much or any for sale at all that year. Because local nurseries that didn't normally graft plants, because they were having such a hard time getting grafted persimmons and peaches and pears and stuff like that, they started experimenting with grafting on their own and propagating their own persimmons when they otherwise probably never would have ever done that. These are things that you have to cope with. When you're in Florida, you're fighting the elements, and sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes it feels like you're never going to win, because you can lose big. You know, I was told by one of the local avocado experts that, you know, we had a hurricanes, you know, so many years ago that flooded out and killed most of his avocado trees. And, you know, and that's when he started experimenting with these mycorrhizal raised wood chip beds, you know, where that fungal mycorrhizal fungi activity surrounds the root system with a web that helps combat succumbing to bacterial root rot. So some people do fight back, even if they have a major loss, learn and win in the end. So this isn't really how I planned to spend this garden vlog, but it is early in the morning, so hopefully we'll get some drier weather and we'll be able to come out here somewhere in the garden where my shoes aren't going to get so saturated with all this nasty wetness. And maybe, just maybe, come on, no more rain, get some sunshine. Just maybe we'll get some more plants in the ground, and this won't be just another look at the same stuff and talk video. I think there's good news here, bad news too, because we're talking about mulberries. Of course we're talking about mulberries. We've been waiting a while to see which ones actually survive, the grafts, the cuttings. And then we got this mulberry ICU here where most likely all of the grafts or cuttings have died. But I think it will have at least 2 new cultivars where we have excesses of them, where we can give or trade to the local garden community. Probably Australian green and blackbird, I think. Possibly others, we'll see. But those 2, especially the Australian green, seem to be pretty readily wanting to root or take graft easily, or easier than some. This is that sunflower pawpaw, and there's the rootstock where we side grafted, and look at that, there's like a little mushroom growing right there. So what we're going to do to maybe prevent some of the rotten stuff is to get this old side graft paraffin off here to try to see if it'll heal up here. So that was the Pandam side graft, and as you can see, there's still some green there, but I think it just took priority, this top graft, and they have a word for it where like the top section, takes the energy, the priority, the main growth. And when they do, like some people do citrus grafts, they will actually bend and break that top section so it's growing lower, but keep like 50% of the bark on, so it's still growing and alive while they graft something that's higher. And I forget what it's called. It starts with an A-A-T or something, but it seems like that took priority. This guy just suffered and now it's gone, but that's okay as long as that rot or whatever causing that mushroom doesn't somehow rot the rest of the plant. So I just took the paraffin off of this guy too. Let's see if we can get it to focus. It looks like it's healing up really well, and you always got to worry about that section there, that little section there getting moisture and rot. But it looks like we did a pretty good job on it, and it looks to be growing fantastically. I don't know if I showed you guys this in an update, but this Ronda Bordeaux fig where we clipped it, look at there, it's got new buds right there, so that's going to bud out, hopefully make it a little bushy there, and hope the clips that we got, the cuttings, will actually produce at least one backup tree so we can maybe put one of this guy on the ground somewhere. This XL fig we got, now we always talk about backing up, but it's got a lot of dial back there, and near the root system it has like a little bit of rot or something, it seems. So we don't have like a sand mix to try to put this guy in, so we're probably going to try to find a place to go ahead and plant this soon. In this video, maybe not, we'll see. But we, if it keeps going the way it is, there's really not a lot of cutting material there. Kind of looks happy at the top, but if I cut like there and try to get, or there and try to get another cutting, we might just not be successful, and that might just kill it off. So I think the best bet is to go ahead and plant this guy. I don't know if I can collect any ash, considering I haven't burned lately and we've had so many rains, but we'll probably go grab a little bit of magic soil, a little bit of our compost from our own compost bins, and hope that that adds a little bit of beneficial, maybe mycorrhizal activity, fungi, earthworms, everything, and hope for the best. I have another fig in the ground that has had a lot of dieback, and it may be on its way out anyway. Super shady, super wet area, so maybe we need to try to save it. May not happen, but we need to move it to maybe a little bit more sunny, a little bit more drier land. It's the 4th of July, and we're getting ready to cook ribs, and we had Walmart delivery, and unfortunately, like 2/3 of our ribs didn't get delivered. Somebody might have sent it to the wrong delivery address, or a delivery driver might have stole them, or maybe they just didn't get put in there. Who knows? But we've had a lot of problems with the Spark drivers, including ones that never delivered our groceries. So I'm sure a lot of people are getting fired for doing this kind of stuff. But they gave us the smallest pack of spare ribs probably they had, like a $10 pack. Smithfield, not like a great value or whatever. So we got to go try to find more, and probably some drunk drivers out on the road, which sucks. It's 4th of July. They may be sold out. So let's hope for the best. Well, I just got back from 2 grocery stores. Walmart was sold out of the ribs altogether, and I grabbed a Sam Adams Summer Ale, a wheat beer. I'm going to be testing this against Hoegaarden original wheat beer, white beer. This is probably a wheat beer that's not a white beer because it seems like it's filtered. So this is a limited edition citrus wheat ale. What does it taste like? When I opened it, I said, "This smells like beer." And I tasted it. It just tastes like beer, kind of like Busch. Maybe a slightly fuller flavor, hint of bitterness, but not as bad as like the Modelo Negra. Kind of disappointed because I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but something different. Kind of wondering where I was gonna get those ashes from, but I cleaned out the little barbecue grill here, and we got a bunch of ashes here. While we wait for the charcoal to get hot, we're gonna taste test this against that Sam Adams Summer Ale, limited edition. This is Hoegaarden, and apparently this was inspired like from 200 plus years ago, monks making a wheat beer and kind of introducing a few other spices. So they will call it like a citrus wheat beer. They'll use like coriander, orange peel, and then there's probably some barley malt and hops as well, but it's generally a wheat beer that's supposed to have a citrusy taste. But this one is an unfiltered beer, so instead of just saying it's a wheat beer, they call it a white beer. And there's a lot of stuff at the bottom there. It's double fermented, so it's fermented, in barrels or something, and then it's fermented again in the bottle. All right, we just opened it up. It looks very, very cloudy. You probably can't see it with the camera. But apparently this style of beer fell out of favor in the 1900s, and they kind of stopped making it for a long time, and just people researched or whatever. And they started making it again, and now a lot of beer brands are copying it. Let's give it a smell. It smells like beer. It got kind of like a sour note to it. But I wouldn't, not being a beer expert, I wouldn't be able to tell you from the smell what it smells like. Let's give her a taste. There is something about this that tastes similar and different to any other beer I've had. Again, this is the only 2 wheat beers I've ever had so far. I don't know if that's the coriander or the fact that it's unfiltered, or that maybe there's a different amount of wheat that is fermented in this versus that Samuel Adams. I want to say that this is significantly less bitter than Sam Adams, and Sam Adams isn't a bitter beer. Definitely significantly less bitter than the Modelo Negra. So you're supposed to pour about 2/3 of this into a tall glass and then swirl the bottom and then pour that bottom, those settlings, over top of it to get that maximum amount of spicy flavor. I tried that last night because I bought this yesterday, and I must have did something wrong because it foamed up all over the place and just wasn't a great experience. Maybe I don't have the right kind of glass or something. That strange taste is not a bad taste. It's just unfamiliar. And once you get past it, I think this is definitely a more refreshing and easier to drink. Now, a lot of people love darker and more bitter beers, ales, all that good stuff. That's okay. I tend to go for something a little bit less bitter. I never would have thought to bring beer, the battle of the wheat beers to the garden vlog, but maybe we'll do something like that. It's summer, it's hot, we need something nice, refreshing, not too bitter, something easy to drink down and enjoy. And now I think the clear winner for me is this guy, the original wheat beer. I am definitely disappointed that Sam Adams didn't deliver at least something different, whether or not I liked or disliked it. This guy delivered something different. Now, I took a look at some reviews online at this. A lot of people like it, but one reviewer said this is a cheap ripoff of Shock Top and Blue Moon, but if you look at the history of it, this is the original. Those other ones, they are copying this and maybe trying to improve it, maybe not. We'll see. Maybe we'll do some original German and Belgium wheat beer on here, and try Shock Top, try Blue Moon. I should have grabbed it when it was on the 4th of July sale, but I probably won't be in Gainesville before the sale ends. They had them for $5.99 for a 6-pack. Normally they're between like $12 and $14 for a 6-pack. I'm trying to dig in this unfiltered beer too, and I wonder if this is going to be a thing where filtered beers, wheat beers, are going to taste, like Busch and all those others, and if unfiltered beers are going to taste closer to this. We're really not far along into our beer journey, because I don't know, I used to drink Bud Ice mostly, and this is way away from Bud Ice, way away from Busch, way different. Natural Ice, Ice House, and all those other beers, even Michelob. And I've sort of been a fan of Miller High Life. Even though I could drink a bunch, a 12-pack and not get a buzz for whatever reason. I just sort of like that champagne beer, that taste. Corona is something I want to try, like the Familiar as well, which isn't a wheat beer, but it's supposed to be a fuller-bodied, kind of less bitter beer, I think. But let's focus on these wheat beers, and this might be our next iteration past those tequila journey videos. Once we get done with season 2, we may not even do a season 3 of the tequila journey. So this summer ale from Sam Adams says, a bright citrus wheat ale bursting with orange, lemon, lime, and grains of paradise, perfect for a summer day. Well, I don't get that orange flavor. Probably not a whole lot of orange flavor in the other one, but there's a different flavor. And I think the first bottle I took, I got a little grain or something in my mouth yesterday from that whole Hoegaarden, and I just bit into it, and it was kind of licorice-y. I wonder if it was fennel or if it was coriander or what, but coriander is supposed to taste more like citrus. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a secret spice they put in there that they don't tell you what it is. And it just got through whatever. You know, it's unfiltered, but I'm sure they do something to it to minimize how much sediment's at the bottom. That said, I don't want to harp too much on Sam Adams. It's good beer. It's just not different. It's the same old, same old. And let's see what kind of alcohol. 5.3%. So not too bad. If someone offered me a Sam Adams Summer Ale and I was at a barbecue or something, I'd say, hell yeah, that's decent. Especially when it's super ice cold. Well, our first little rack of ribs is on. It's a very small rack, probably 3 pounds. But we have some other ones where we got an Instapot before we put on here. Look at that smoke. We got some of our active compost we're gonna put right there in those ashes. And we're gonna add some stuff to the pot that is full of life, you know, from everything breaking down in it that the plant died in. And we're going to just put at least half of this in there. Earthworms in there. Check that out. Well, he done run away. But you can see from the pot there. Look at that. So much activity. Let's go to this magic soil area. Look at that. Stuff looks like coffee grounds. And we're going to put that there and try to mix it up. Here it is, roughly mixed up. You can see the gray from the ashes. You can see the black from the compost. And you can probably see some of that brown coffee-like grounds from the magic soil. All the little worms sort of grazed the top of some rainwater with a lot of duckweed here. Duckweed pulls out, you know, nutrients and all from the water. So let's mix that in there. If I had a bunch of aged mulch or wood chips, leaves, sticks and all, I would put that right there and mix it in with maybe some other compost, finished compost, into the cement mixture and make a big old pile of mycorrhizal fungal bed, you know, starter. Well, this is what we got now. This poor bill fig has almost no roots on it, but as you can see, it's scratching green, has dieback. Let's see if we can plant it somewhere else and make it come back. We moved that bill fig to a much sunnier spot. There is a little tiny bit of shade here. Mix that mycorrhizal, that whatever starter with it. And if it shows signs of life, we will sort of build a mycorrhizal, post-mycorrhizal bed around it. So we will see. XL fig, since it's showing some signs of water issues or something, we got a hill here, slope. And this is where that Celeste fig was that we bought as a black mission fig. And we got out a few months ago. May not go as high up. We'll go a little bit further down and plant it here, of course, with this magic soil and stuff to maybe help with the moisture retention and all, and just see how it does here. Here we go, and we got some rainwater here we're going to add to it and pack it in a little bit better, make sure it has its roots, you know, covered with some soil. And there it is. Let's hope for the best. We don't have backups of these, but they're looking bad, doing bad, or possibly on their way out. So this is our potential way to try to save them. You know, it can make it worse. They can go from shade, you know, full shade to full sun and then just wither away and die. Or this might help them turn around. One of the things I did off camera was put some of those marigold seeds in pretty much every fig pot, you know, 3, 4, 6, 10, whatever, and put them, you know, so even those ones in the ground, they should have, you know, probably 6 or 10 marigold seeds. Whether or not they come up or not is another thing, but, you know, marigolds are a deterrent of nematodes, so certain fig types have problems with nematodes. Can't promise you, like I said, that they will even sprout, but if they do, maybe they will help you know, just like a mycorrhizal bed, just like beneficial nematodes, you know, which sometimes have a relationship with those mycorrhizal beds, may help make the fig trees, the root systems, more healthy. So we got the second slab of ribs on. We had to Instapot these guys because they were cheaper meat for like 30 minutes pressure cook to get them somewhat tender. So we'll see what happens. So we are here by the totem beds and where the pomelo's blood orange tangelo is. And I had a mini Meyer lemon there, and I think it died. So we put an avocado there. My little tea plant here is barely alive, but it is alive. It may not make it another year, we'll see. If it doesn't, we'll put something else here. So yeah, that Meyer lemon wasn't really doing good at the end of last year. It was alive, but it's dead now. So we put, you know, GHB avocado here. And why did these guys fail? I guess it's possible the bed was just too new, wasn't mature enough. Or, you know, maybe all the shadowing of all the trees here just created too big of a wet or a humid zone. Or these guys really didn't like it. Or a combination of both. I pulled up 2 white sapotes out of the pot, so let's see if we can find a place to put these guys. I put those 2 in the drier part of wetlands on one. Sorry I didn't get any videos of that. I think we're going to put another one here in our old sun-choked bed if I can dig there. I was going to use these guys here, but we had 2 really large ones like this or bigger, and the other ones just seemed to be small. Probably have no chance of surviving, you know, competing with the weeds and any cold weather probably. So now the big ones are out, so they have less competition, and when I can, I'll try to just separate them into bigger pots anyway. So let's, you know, look at this. These guys are probably close to being graft size. You know, one of the ones I planted out was already bigger than this one. Another 6 months, they could be grafted. It is so overgrown, but when I planted it originally for sunchokes, I added I think either half or a whole truckload of sand in here, so it should be definitely a little bit more well draining than the soil on the ground. And there she is. And there was earthworms like crazy in her pot, so this is some good healthy soil we're adding to it as well. It looks like this avocado we planted under this camphor tree here is perking up quite a bit. That's a good sign. I am still wondering what this mystery pear here is. I know I planted at least 2 Asian pears here, but one of them was over there and it kept dying back and dying back, possibly to the rootstock, and then the rootstock died. So this could be an Asian pear. But I guess we'll only know when it starts to getting closer to ripeness, if it changes a certain color, and when we get to test the pears, I guess. Asian pears are known to be, you know, ready to eat right off the tree, whereas a lot of the other pears, European pears or whatever, they need some time to sit on a table or counter for a while. Well, you could probably tell it's the next morning because I've had my morning voice on for a little while. Always wake up with a little cough, a little scratchy-ish throat, you know, before I get my coffee and get out. But sometimes I get out before Natalie and the kids wake up, and this is a rare occasion. No one's called me, no one's hollered for me. Dog hasn't been let out to run around. So we actually got some stuff in the ground, which is very nice. And yesterday we were cooking those ribs, and you know, they turned out excellent. But when I went to Winn-Dixie to get more ribs, they didn't really have the Smithfield, so I bought a cheaper rack. As you know or may know, that I Instapot ribs before I put them on the barbecue grill because I don't want them to overcook trying to get them tender. I want them to sort of tenderize in the pressure cooker. So those Swift or whatever brand those were, I had to cook them for 30 minutes in the pressure cook. You know, it takes 20 or 30 minutes to get up pressure, so it's building up heat before then. And if it takes me 10 or 20 minutes afterwards, it's slowly releasing heat and staying in that hot, water and fat and stuff in the Instapot for a while. I was even concerned with the first set at 30 minutes. I was like, there's no sign of these pulling off the bone, even in the slightest. They're still like elastic or whatever you call it, or they're holding on tight. But luckily, that was pretty good. I think if I did those again, I'd probably do them about 35 minutes, because I kind of like them like a Ribby Tuesday, where you just touch them and they fall off the bone. A lot of people don't like it that way, but the last ones we cooked before yesterday turned out to be way too leathery. Me trying to appease Natalie, wanting them to stick to the bone, and so many chewy pieces that you would probably choke if you tried to swallow them, versus spitting them out or pulling them out and just setting them aside. These were better for sure. The Smithfield ribs, it seems like 14 to 16 minutes in the Instapot is just fine. So how many of those white sapotes are we going to plant out? I don't think I'm going to plant out too many more, maybe 2 or 3, give or take a few, because I know that they are in tropical range, and they probably don't have the best chance of surviving our winters here anyway. People in other microclimates or in places like downtown Gainesville, Florida, where they have all that concrete and all those buildings and all these retention ponds everywhere absorbing, heat. There are said to be one that produced I don't know if it was a courthouse or what it was, somewhere in Gainesville for many, many years without any frost damage, but they ended up landscaping or something, and they took everything out, and that white sapote no longer exists. So yeah, we're going to do a few white sapotes, probably a few more the GHB avocados, and I think we need to find a place to put some of these pear trees that we have in pots for the last few months, instead of just keeping them in their pots. Now, with them being sort of root bound in their pots, they will flower in their pots, but when you put them in the ground, they hit some loose soil or whatever, if they're searching for water and nutrients and all, that might set them back 5, 6, 8 years sometimes. That's my experience with the Baldwin pear. Some people say, oh well, it'll flower and fruit within 2 years in the ground, or 3, even though it's flowering in the pot right now. And is there a way around that if you have a certain soil where they're just going into this growth mode versus flowering and reproductive mode? You restrict or constrict their root system in the ground. Maybe plant it tightly around a bunch of blocks buried in the ground, kind of like some people say figs plant a fig near a foundation, plant a fig with some old broken up concrete blocks or something, and they supposedly will grow and do better and produce more figs. I would never plant a pear tree in the hole, the little holes in between there's 2 holes in the blocks. I would never plant one there, because I know the growth would expand so much, and it would probably girdle underneath, and it might even kill the tree. But what about if you build a box, with 4, 6, 8, blocks around it to kind of give it that snugness, but not permanently restrict any root growth, where the roots can go in all directions anyway, but it feels that snugness. Hey, that might be a good experiment for the future. I guess I can talk about one more thing. Some people may think that, when we sporadically plant something here, there, and everywhere, that we're just planting to plant to give content or something. I can probably see that, but is there a method to the madness? Well, yes and no. For one, we are doing this because experimentation. So the method is, we don't know, and we probably have a good idea that many of these things will fail. But when we put these plants, whether it's white sapotes or, avocados or anything, in different levels of sunshade, different types of soil, mounds, way down low, in mycorrhizal beds, and everything, we are trying to build success where a lot of times there is failure, even when you're not in a swamp. Over a period of time, whether it be 6 months or 10 years, we should be able to say more about certain types of plants because we have more knowledge of them. This failed, but this thing here and this thing here showed progress or success. So are we throwing mud to the wall and hoping it sticks? Sort of. If there wasn't a challenge, if there wasn't a problem, everybody would do it. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So, not many people are doing avocados here. It's, it's a thing, but it's sort of a niche thing, and a lot of people have problems going and spending, $40 or $100 or $200 for an avocado tree and craft it one, and then they're dead, a year later. And it may not be from cold weather. It could be bacterial root rot. It could be that they don't like the sun, the summer sun, because they're not used to it yet, and they need a couple years or shade cloth or something is being put over it. Well, so much for being the only one awake now. Right, JJ? Well, I think I've about run out of time for this vlog, and just kind of realize sometimes that when I'm sporadically going out a few times a day, and when this garden vlog gets to be 2, 3, 4 days long, we just don't realize how long it is. So I really don't want to make a bunch of 35, 45, 50 plus minute videos. I'd rather do 15 to 25 minute videos, but hey, no guarantee that's going to happen. Sometimes we'll probably do them, but so yeah, we're not going to plan anything else today, but maybe in the next garden vlog, because we do have some more things we need to figure out where we're going to plant out. Take care, guys.